In this section, we're going to cover battery service. Now remember, whenever you're doing any battery service, personal protection devices are important. Now with the batteries, there are a number of things that we're going to want to do. First off, of course, is a general overview of the battery's condition. What you're looking for here are missing cell covers, corrosion at the terminals, and if the battery has been left outside or has been left in a module, it has gotten cold, you want to check for battery freezing. Battery freezing, you can tell, take a look at the sides of the battery. If the battery looks like it has gotten fat in its sides, there's a possibility that it has frozen. If the battery has frozen, it's a good idea just to get a new battery. Okay, continuing on. One of the things that we are checking for here initially on our batteries is the charging voltage. If our charging voltage is too high, on a 12-volt battery, we should be about 13.5 to about 14 volts. If we're much over 14 volts, then we could have an overcharge condition. To tell if you've got an overcharging condition, note the amount of water that the battery is using. If the battery is using an abnormal amount of water, if every time you check it, you seem to have to be adding water to it, then maybe our charging voltage is too high. And again, to check for charging voltage, take your voltmeter and connect it to the battery. Again, on a 12-volt system, we should be looking approximately 13.5 to 14. On a 24-volt system, you could be up to 28 volts. Now, taking a look at the battery that we have here in front of us, it's pretty clean at the terminals. What we're looking for here is the growth of a white or silvery powder. This is obviously corrosion, and corrosion is one of the enemies that we're fighting. So the first thing we're going to do is clean the battery terminals. It's a pretty simple process to do. The first thing you want to do, of course, is isolate the battery. So we're going to turn off the battery charger and shut everything down so that we do not have any chances of hopefully arcing or sparking as we're doing our job. Okay, first thing we're going to do here is take the terminals and the connectors apart from one another and clean them up. Now remember, when you're working around here, you're working with low voltage but extremely high current. So you want to make sure you know where your metal tools are at all time. Never store tools on top of a battery. Another thing, if we have just charged a battery, the process of charging a battery will leave hydrogen and oxygen gases floating above the tops of the battery. Any arcing that goes on at that point can lead to a battery explosion, which is a real bad thing. Now, in taking off the terminals, again, it's pretty nut and bolt, easy to take on, take off, but one of the things to watch out for, of course, is get this guy out of the way. Once you loosen this up, make sure you remove the terminal by using a battery terminal puller, such as I have right here. This battery terminal puller is simple to use, simply clamps on the top, and will very easily pull the terminal off the post of the battery. Quite simple. The good news is it pulls it off real easy like that. Now, you may have seen it some time or another, folks getting in there with a screwdriver and prying and pulling and doing all that other stuff. That puts a tremendous amount of stress and torque right on this lead puller, or I'm sorry, this lead post right here. Well, the lead post, you know, it's made of lead. Lead is not a real strong material. And you start pulling and prying on that thing, you can have a wonderfully charged battery, except it'll have a broken post, or it'll break the seal between the post and the battery itself, which will cause it to leak profusely. Obviously not a good thing. So we've got this pulled. We're going to get our terminal cleaner. This is one particular type of cleaner, and we'll clean first the terminal. Again, it's very simple. You just put it in there, you turn it around a few times until you have a nice clean surface right inside here. Now to clean the mating surface, you put the cap back on and simply There we go. Notice how the lead is nice and shiny in through here, indicating that we're going to, when we put it all back together, have a real good electrical connection. Remember, the #1 killer of batteries is lack of maintenance. According to AC Delco, better than 50% of the batteries that are thrown away are not defective. They simply have perhaps a maintenance issue or some other problem in the charging or electrical system that has led to a dead battery, but not necessarily a defective battery. Now that you've cleaned one, cleaning the rest of them is simply a matter of bolt, unbolt, and clean. Now once you've got it clean, we want to do something that's going to help it stay clean. There are two materials that you can use to help keep oxygen from reaching the lead and causing corrosion. One of the materials is plain old ordinary grease. A thin layer of grease, once you've got the terminal back on and connected, will help keep air from, again, reaching the lead and problems. Another material that you can use is any kind of a spray material that you can get from a variety of automotive aftermarket or parts houses that are made specifically for this job. And again, spray it on once all your connections are clean and tight, and hopefully you won't have to do this maintenance too very often. Next, we're going to check the battery's level. This is the electrolyte level that's inside the battery. We're going to pull the filler cap off, and if you take a look down inside the filler area, down at the bottom of the plastic, that should be where the water level is. If it's lower than that, then you need to add water. You never add acid to a battery once the battery is in service. All you need to do is add water, because that's what we're losing when the battery charges. To add water, again, what Delco recommends and a variety of other battery manufacturers would be distilled water. If distilled water is unavailable, the next best thing is potable water. In other words, water that you can drink. If the water isn't good enough to drink, it's not good enough to put in your battery. Alrighty, taking the container right here, we simply put it in there and allow the battery to fill up. When this thing quits flowing water, that cell should be full. Alrighty, and we want to check. Remember, whenever you're going to be looking in a battery, use a flashlight. Never ever flick a Bic or anything else like that using anything that's going to spark, arc, or have flame, again because of the worry of battery explosion. So checking down there, and we find that the battery is perfect. Simply replace the cap and go on to the next cells. Repeat this until all cells have been checked, all terminals have been cleaned, and we're ready then to test the battery.